Have you ever wondered why some people enter their later years with a radiant calm, while others become restless, bitter, or filled with fear? Are you looking at the wrinkles on your face and feeling as though a decline is drawing near? Imagine an elderly person sitting quietly by the window, watching the sunset fade. In that stillness, there is no regret, only an atmosphere of extraordinary peace. The difference here does not lie in time, but in wisdom. Because it is not age that shapes us, it is awareness that does. The horizon of life does not necessarily have to be a dark ending. According to Buddhist teachings, these final chapters are not a regression, but a sacred awakening. Old age is a precious opportunity for us to cast aside worldly noise and touch true freedom. In this video, we will explore 7 profound Buddhist lessons to build a fearless life. These teachings will help you heal old wounds, shed the burden of anxiety, and live your remaining days in absolute serenity. A fearless life awaits you as you learn to embrace the laws of nature with an open and awakened heart. Lesson 1. Accepting impermanence. To find true peace in old age, the first and most important step is acceptance. It is a quiet acknowledgement of the impermanent nature of all things. The Buddha once taught that all that has a beginning will surely have an end, and everything born will eventually pass away. These words are not intended to make us sorrowful, but to guide us toward freedom. When we are young, we often obsessively pursue values that seem eternal, such as physical beauty, brilliant success, power, or social recognition. But as time passes, old age gently reminds us that everything is in flux. Look at reality. Our bodies are no longer as supple as they once were, and the significant roles we once held in work or society are gradually fading into the past. Perhaps you were once a decisive leader or a vigorous breadwinner, but now, leaving that position behind, you feel a sense of loss and emptiness. Suffering arises precisely when we try to resist this flow. Peace truly begins the moment we stop arguing with reality. Old age, at this point, is no longer an enemy, but becomes a wise teacher whispering the truth of letting go. Buddhist philosophy likens life to a constantly flowing river. When we try to cling tightly to the rocky banks out of fear, we are buffeted by the current and injured. But when we relax and go with the flow, we feel the gentleness of the stream. Acceptance does not mean surrendering or giving up. It means opening our hearts to the flow of existence. Wrinkles now become vivid history books, and the slowness of our steps becomes an opportunity to practice mindfulness in every movement. Now, take a minute to sit very still. Close your eyes and feel your body in this very moment. Feel the gentle pulse of life within you, which, though perhaps slower, is still incredibly miraculous. You may have lost your youth, but you have harvested wisdom. Acceptance allows us to rest in the present moment where true peace always resides. When the mind learns how to rest, even the simplest things become priceless gifts of life. Lesson 2. Letting go of the past. Once we have learned to accept the impermanence of the present, we often encounter another obstacle that is equally heavy, which is the baggage of the past. Many people enter old age still carrying bulky luggage filled with regrets, old mistakes, and missed opportunities. However, Buddhism teaches that clinging to the past is like trying to hold the fire in the palm of your hand. The only person who gets burned is you, and the only way to end the pain is to open your hand and let it fall. We cannot rewrite the old chapters of our lives, but we have the complete right to change how we perceive them. Perhaps you are tormented by a word of love that was not spoken in time to someone who has passed away, or a wrong decision that caused your family difficulties many years ago. Those if only thoughts are the very chains preventing you from reaching happiness. Understand that every experience, whether bitter or sweet, has contributed to molding the wisdom you possess today. Therefore, instead of resenting what is past, try bowing to it with gratitude. The Buddha once likened life to a dream. Upon waking, the wise do not mourn the illusions within the dream, but focus on the light of reality. To practice this, sit down very quietly and breathe deeply. Bring those regrets into the light of awareness without any judgment. Then, whisper to yourself that I forgive myself. At that time, I was also just learning like everyone else. In that forgiveness, a new space will open within your heart, where peace begins to sprout. Letting go is not about erasing memories, but about remembering with a heart full of compassion. Observe the image of a tree in autumn. It sheds its yellow leaves not in despair or pain, but in absolute faith in the natural cycle of life. It knows that it must discard the old so that the sap has room to nourish future buds. You too should learn to let go with trust in the flow of life. Letting go does not mean loss. It is about creating space for love and deeper understanding to flourish. When you release the burden of guilt, you will find yourself standing very lightly between heaven and earth. Lesson 3. Releasing the need to control. The greatest fear often arises when we realize we are gradually losing control over things that were once very familiar. In the evening of life, health may change in ways we do not desire. Children have grown up and made their own independent decisions, or the world outside is changing at a staggering pace. We often have a tendency to hold very tightly to what we have for a sense of security, but Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the more we try to control, the more we invite suffering. Imagine you are trying to clutch a handful of sand in your palm. The tighter you squeeze, the more the sand slips through your fingers and falls away. Only when you open your palm can you hold those grains of sand in the most complete and peaceful way. Letting go of control does not mean indifference or lack of responsibility, but rather a transformation from an attitude of forceful demand to trust in the laws of nature. When you accept that you cannot manipulate the thoughts of others or stop the aging of your cells, a new strength will emerge. That is freedom. You no longer have to strain yourself to maintain a perfect image or struggle to arrange the lives of your grandchildren according to your will. Instead, you learn to observe everything happening with a calm and tolerant attitude. A truly fearless life begins when the need for control ends, making way for compliance and harmony with everything around us. To train this mindset, you can perform a simple exercise in your daily breathing. As you inhale, whisper to yourself that I allow everything to be as it is. As you exhale, tell yourself that I release all pressure to change reality. Let the breath carry away the tensions in your mind, leaving a lightness in every fiber of your being. This practice helps you realize that life inherently functions well without the excessive intervention of the individual ego. When we stop playing the role of the life controller, we can truly enjoy the beauty of that life. Let control go and embrace faith, for that is the key that opens the door to absolute serenity in old age. Lesson 4. Living fully in this moment. In the quiet rhythm of old age, time begins to reveal its true nature. Long days may seem to pass more slowly when the body is no longer rushing with worldly calculations. However, hidden deep within this slowing down is a priceless spiritual opportunity, the chance to truly be present. The Buddha once taught that we should not chase after the past or lose ourselves in the future. The past is no longer here, and the future has not yet arrived. There is only one single moment in which we can truly live, and that is right now. These teachings contain the secret of peace, because the past is merely footprints washed away by the tide, and the future is a wave still waiting to rise. Only the present is real. Only here can we find an anchor for our soul. When we were young, our minds always raced forward like a wild horse chasing plans, goals, and ambitions. But when the twilight years knock on the door, life invites us to return to simplicity. The slowing of the body is not an obstacle, but a teacher guiding us deeper into awakening. Mindfulness is not something lofty that needs to be added to a busy schedule, but the art of waking up in even the most ordinary things. Try observing how you enjoy a hot cup of tea in the morning. Feel the warmth from the ceramic transferring through your palms. Watch the delicate steam rising and inhale the pure aroma of the tea leaves. As you drink, truly feel the slight bitterness on the tip of your tongue, then gradually turning into a sweet aftertaste in your throat. When you walk in your yard, feel the contact of your soles with the firm ground and the cool air touching your skin. These authentic sensations will pull your mind back home. Every moment in life can become sacred if we bring our attention to it. Recognize the silent miracle of the breath, which has nourished you from the first cry of birth until today. This simple recognition transforms every daily activity into a celebration of life. You will realize that peace does not come from doing more, but from being more fully present. Many elders often say they wish they could turn back time to fix something. However, the wisdom of mindfulness points to a more beautiful truth that we can slow down time by living deeply in every moment. When you watch a flower bloom, listen to the rain falling on the porch, or sit quietly in a room, the world expands and so does your heart. Old age, in this light, is not a weakness but a ripening of awareness. Our minds are naturally prone to wandering, frequently repeating scenarios of what was lost or worrying about what is to come. But remember that the only moment you can breathe, think, and love is now. Every time you catch your thoughts drifting away, gently bring them back to the breath. No force needed, no frustration, just return softly. This returning is the core of the practice. In Buddhist teachings, there is a very beautiful term called suchness, meaning to perceive everything exactly as it is, without coloring it with fear, regret, or vain expectations. Aging, the change in appearance, or aches and pains are all part of the reality of suchness. When we see through them without resistance, they lose their power to disturb our souls. There is a small exercise for you every morning. Right when you wake up, before getting out of bed, place your hand over your heart. Feel that steady and miraculous beat. Silently tell yourself that I am here. I am living in this moment. This simple act helps you root yourself deeply in gratitude. And gratitude is the most brilliant flower of awakening. When you are truly present, you will also listen more deeply and perceive others with more tolerant eyes. You respond to life with understanding instead of reacting with defensiveness. The smallest things like birdsong at dawn or the softness of an old blanket suddenly become great blessings. Perhaps that is the greatest wisdom of old age, learning that peace has never been far away. It is always waiting for us in the space between this breath and the next. Lie very slowly and walk very softly so that every passing moment is like a sincere prayer. Lesson 5. Facing mortality with wisdom. In every person's journey, there comes a time when we begin to truly face our own finitude. When we are young, death feels like a distant horizon that we rarely bother with. But as the years pass, it begins to draw closer, not as a violent invader, but as a quiet reminder that everything is shifting. In Buddhist teachings, this truth is not something to be feared, but is embraced as one of life's greatest teachers. The Buddha taught that everything that has a beginning must surely have an end. This teaching is not meant to spread gloom, but on the contrary, it throws open the doors of the heart so we can understand the value of impermanence. It is precisely because we know everything will vanish that we begin to cherish the preciousness of each present moment. Fear of death often arises from a deep misunderstanding. We frequently imagine it as a dark black hole, an absolute and painful termination. However, through Buddhist wisdom, we can perceive death in a completely different way. Death is not the opposite of life. It is an essential part of life. It is a transformation, a continuation, and a homecoming. Think of a candle using its flame to light another candle. The first flame is not lost. It is merely passing its light into a new form. Our lives are the same. Life continues under forms that the limited human mind may not yet fully comprehend. To face finitude with peace, we must first face it with awakening. The Buddha often encouraged us to contemplate death not to cause terror, but to help us live more deeply. When you courageously look directly at the fragility of your condition, trivial worries suddenly lose their power to manipulate you. Petty arguments, pride, or accumulated resentments begin to fall away. You will clearly see what truly matters in this life, which is kindness, tolerance, love, and full presence. In the scriptures, there is a moving story about Siddhartha Gautama who lost her only child. The grief was so overwhelming that she went mad, carrying her child's body everywhere searching for a medicine to revive him. When she found the Buddha, he told her to find a mustard seed from a family where no one had ever died. She knocked on the door of every house in the village, but everywhere she received a sad shake of the head. Every house had lost a father, a mother, a child, or a friend. At that moment, Siddhartha Gautama awakened and understood his teaching that death is the common law of all beings. This truth brings great compassion for ourselves and others. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, or every goodbye becomes part of the grand rhythm of the universe. When you see this clearly, fear will begin to dissipate. You can practice death contemplation, meditation to dissolve attachments and awaken gratitude. Sit very still and breathe. As you inhale, think that this breath is a priceless gift. As you exhale, be aware that this breath could be your last. Do not let fear possess you. Let appreciation lead the way. Feel the gentleness of being alive, even if only for one more breath. The truth is, we are already dying in small moments every time we let go of an old habit or an old identity. Each such letting go is a preparation for the final liberation. Death is not a punishment, but an ultimate act of surrender. When we stop clinging to the temporary self, we also stop suffering. The self that is afraid is actually just a fleeting illusion, like a cloud drifting across the sky, whereas the pure awareness behind it is the vast sky itself, which was never born and never passes away. Living with this understanding is how you live a fearless life. And when the final moment arrives, we can receive it with deep gratitude, like a traveler returning home after a long journey full of experiences. As the Buddha said, of all footprints, that of the elephant is supreme. Of all contemplations, that on death is supreme. Because when we can accept our finitude, we truly begin to live in the most complete and free way. Lesson 6. Compassion in Sacred Solitude. In the later years of life, many of us begin to experience solitude more distinctly. Sometimes this is a personal choice to find peace, but other times it is due to objective circumstances when loved ones depart or children become busy with their own lives. However, in the Buddhist view, being alone does not necessarily go hand in hand with loneliness. On the contrary, this is fertile ground for the seed of compassion to sprout and flourish. The Buddha himself frequently sought silence and secluded places, not to escape the world, but to see through the world with a clearer vision. When we are left alone, that is when we can truly listen to the whispering thoughts, feel each breath, and touch the faint pulse of life operating all around us. Old age is a stage where external roles such as job status, responsibilities as a parent, or being a leader gradually fall away. What remains is the purest essence of existence. From that root, compassion arises when we understand that all beings share the same pains, joys, and the desire to be liberated from suffering. When you perceive those around you through eyes of understanding, every interaction becomes gentler. If a neighbor acts unpleasantly, you will see the pain behind their behavior instead of feeling annoyed. In particular, compassion needs to be directed towards your own aging body. Instead of resenting the pain or slowness, treat your body with tenderness, just as a mother cares for a young child. Compassion is also an effective medicine to heal the desolation in the soul. When you send love outward through kind thoughts, gentle words, or small acts of helping others, you will begin to feel an invisible connection with all things. You can practice a profound method called Tonglen from the Tibetan tradition. Sit quietly and imagine you are inhaling the pains of the world and exhaling peace and pure love. This act transforms your solitude into a sacred space, a place where suffering is converted into a powerful spiritual connection. Stillness now is no longer something to be feared, but becomes a temple within your very heart. In that space, the noise of the world recedes, making way for the voice of the soul. You can observe memories or emotions returning, like clouds drifting across the sky without needing to chase or drive them away. This quiet observation leads to a state of deep contentment, a happiness that does not depend on money or acclaim from the outside. In monasteries, elders are often revered for their composure and eyes shining with kindness. They have discovered that peace does not lie in youth, but in a quiet mind. Whether you are living among loved ones or are alone in a vacant room, let compassion and stillness blend together. Keep your heart always open like a pure lotus flower, still radiating a fragrant scent even as it rises from the mud. An elderly person walking with a compassionate heart will never feel lonely, because a heart that knows how to love will always feel the warmth of life present everywhere. Sacred solitude is the gift that prepares us for ultimate freedom, where the small self dissolves to merge into the vast love of the universe. Lesson 7. Awakening and the Freedom. Beyond all fear. After traveling through the stages of acceptance, mindfulness, and compassion, we reach the final level of this journey, which is awakening. This is not something distant, reserved only for saints or hermits dwelling in mountain caves. Awakening is the natural flowering of a life lived in complete awareness. It is the ability to see clearly that all the fluctuations of life from birth and aging to joy, sorrow, gain, loss, or success and failure are merely waves rippling on the surface of a vast ocean. Beneath those fierce and noisy waves, there is always an absolute stillness that can never be shaken. That stillness is your truest nature. When you discover this source, all fear will automatically dissipate. You no longer struggle against the flow of life, and you are no longer terrified at the threshold of death. You perceive every event that occurs as part of the sacred and rhythmic dance of the universe. In Buddhist teachings, this recognition is called nirvana. Nirvana is not some distant paradise that we can only reach after passing away. Nirvana is a state of mind right here and now, a mindset completely absent of craving, hatred, and delusions. It is a peace that nothing can break. You can touch nirvana right in a gentle breath, in the silence between two thoughts, or in the very awareness that observes everything without judgment. Most people spend their entire lives seeking happiness in external materials, but the truth is that the tranquility we long for has existed within us since the very beginning. It was there when we were innocent children, and it is still there right now, beneath the thick layers of complex thoughts and emotions. When we stop searching, we will realize we have already arrived. An awakened heart always lives in a state of equanimity, also known as composure amidst all changes. Joy or sorrow, gain or loss are all perceived as waves rising and then merging back into the ocean of awareness. When we realize we are that ocean, we will no longer fear the vanishing of any wave. Living a fearless life is not actually a life entirely absent of loss or pain. A fearless life is a life without resistance. It is freedom from the false assumptions that life must go according to one's will, and freedom from the blind belief that something is missing within oneself. Imagine your final years being lived in such high awareness, a place where every breath is received with infinite gratitude, every passing day is a gift, and every ending is seen as part of a grand harmony. You no longer complain about why this is happening to you, but instead, you smile and silently give thanks for the opportunity to see through to the truth. That gratitude is awakening in motion, the crystallization of wisdom nurtured on the soil of acceptance. In the final stage of the human journey, the ultimate practice is total surrender. Surrendering here does not mean failure, but an absolute trust in the laws of the universe. You trust that life has always led you back to exactly where you belong, and that everything has happened precisely as it needed to. When this understanding goes deep into the soul, even death no longer carries a fearsome name. There is only transformation, only a return like a wave merging into the vast sea. In that blending, in that boundless stillness, your soul will smile and realize that you were never separate, never flawed, and always free. As we have contemplated together through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, inner peace in the twilight years is not a random miracle, but the result of a persistent process of practice. That journey begins with the acceptance of impermanence, grows with mindfulness in every moment, deepens through compassion, and finally blossoms into full awakening. Every passing day and every gentle breath can become a sacred meditation on life itself. Remember that whether you are in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, your spiritual journey is still shining in its most radiant way. Thank you for spending your precious time to walk with us on the path of awakening today. If these messages have brought comfort to your soul, please subscribe to the channel so we can continue to share wise teachings and healing methods for daily life. May you grow older, not with fear, but with clarity. May you live these years not with regret, but with deep gratitude. And may your final years be the most peaceful days of your entire life.